Throughout our 120 years, Ford has supported our nation's armed forces and honored their selfless service to our country. The Central Ohio Ford dealers are proud to continue this tradition by investing in the work of the National Veterans Memorial and Museum in Columbus. Together, we want to share the veterans' heroic stories and introduce a grateful nation to the faces behind our forces. Please join us monthly to hear inspiring educational stories from our veterans who have gone above and beyond their call to defend freedom around the world. The National Veterans Memorial and Museum and your Central Ohio Ford dealers. Together, we will never forget.
Well, good morning and welcome to Rally Point. This is our monthly series that brings veteran topics and programs and veterans themselves front and center. My name is Bill Butler. I'm the Chief of Staff here at the National Veterans Memorial and Museum. Our topic today is finding your tribe while navigating PTSD and moral injuries. The program today is going to be a great opportunity for us to have an honest conversation about the battles that many service members face, as well as a chance to hear about an organization that fights for veterans and tries to reduce the isolation while promoting connectivity and connections to either veterans or military members as they're struggling with whatever demons they're bringing back from deployments in their service. So today I'm joined by Major Tom Schueman, United States Marine Corps. Tom is the founder of PB Abbate. He's received a bachelor's degree from Loyola University in Chicago, master's degrees from Georgetown and the U.S. Naval War College. Tom's got multiple combat deployments, including one to Sangin District, which at the time was considered the most dangerous place in Afghanistan. Now Tom's an English instructor at the United States Naval Academy. So we are honored he's with us and really looking forward to learning more about PB Abbate, the organization that you've created and founded and are leading. So Tom, if you just tell us a little bit more about who you are, why you decided to serve, what inspired you to join the Marine Corps.
Sir, thanks for having me. I'm from Chicago, grew up on the south side of the city. My mom was a Chicago cop. I never really considered service until I was a sophomore in high school, and 9/11 happened. When the planes hit the towers, I just said that was my first awareness that there were people in the world that wanted to do harm to our country. At that point, it was the age of innocence. I was not cognizant that was an actual reality. And then I said, well, if that is a thing, I should do something about it. And so the idea of service first took root 9/11, 2001. I didn't know what that service would look like. I just knew that I wanted to do something about it. Started to gain an appreciation. General Mattis has a quote that says, "America's like a bank. Some people have to make deposits," and I feel like my mother was someone who made a lot of deposits. She was a Chicago cop for 27 years, single mom, raising 2 kids, and so I should pay into that. And so there was a civic duty aspect of what called me to serve, and then there was the actual 9/11. And so I did our OTC, but by the end of my first week of orientation in our OTC, I saw how the Marine options were, the seniors who were going to be commissioned as Marines, and the Navy, and I just said, I think maybe I like. So that was kind of my first step into the idea of wanting to be a Marine. And I still didn't really know what that meant until I got to TBS and we went on our first field exercise. And that was my first idea of wanting to be an infantry Marine. And then it really wasn't until I was running wild in the woods at the infantry officer course that I knew without a doubt that this is a calling. This is what I'm passionate about. And so something clicked there in the woods out in Quantico during the infantry officers course that I finally said, I've been kind of stumbling my way through this thing. And now I know actually that I'm right where I'm supposed to be. And then I was able to validate that in combat. And that's a very rewarding experience too. And so that was kind of how things started. And and they took off from there.
So, obviously from your background and the degrees that you have, education's very important to you. So is that just something that your mother instilled in you and your sibling, or is that something that you just innately had and understood the importance of education and reading and getting good grades and working hard?
And so I think I always had a real love for reading. I got to college, and I'm first generation college student. I, first person in my family to go to school, and I didn't take advantage of that opportunity to develop myself as a thinker and intellectually as much as I would have liked to as an undergrad. When I checked in as a company commander in the 29 Palms, 3rd Battalion, 4th Marines Lehman Company, my CO, who I really respected, said, one of my greatest regrets was that I didn't start really getting serious about my own professional military education and personal education until too late. There's too many books to read, and I'm already, behind. And I said, well, man, this guy's really pretty smart. And if he's saying that, maybe I should take note of that. And so I developed a professional military education plan within my company. We were call sign Lucky. So I had Lucky PME program, and every month I signed a new book to the Staff and O. And I was deployed to Australia, and I said, you've only been reading memoirs and war books for the last couple of years. Maybe you should try to read something else. And so I Googled famous works of fiction. And the first thing that came up was Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. I read that and I said, oh yeah, I do. I really do like reading in general. And at the same time, a message came out, and the message said, we need someone to come teach literature at the Naval Academy. I had a book in my hand, Charles Dickens. There was a message that said we need someone to teach literature. And I thought, maybe that's me. I didn't know anything about the Naval Academy. I didn't study English in my undergrad, but never been a guy that's been shy to just shoot my shot. And so I threw some crap at the wall, and no one said the Marine Corps is perfect. And the next thing you know, somehow, some way, I found myself at Georgetown, completing a 2-year master's degree program in 1 year. My biggest thing at a place like the Naval Academy, where everything is uniform, everything is on a strict schedule. You're told when to wake up, when to go to bed, when to study. But what I have found as an officer out in the fleet, it's very dynamic and it's very uncertain. And I wanted my students at the Naval Academy to engage their brain. That was my one goal, is if for 5 minutes today you could engage your brain, that's a win for me. Critical thinking is not a crime here. And when you're in a place where everybody chops, they square the corners, they chop down the halls, they chop up the stairs, they all yell the chow hall menu. You might be inclined at a place like that to not try to think too much, because you might go crazy. And I said, no. The fleet and your Marines and sailors need you to be a thinking officer. And so it's been super rewarding, and I feel very, very fortunate that for the last 4 years, the Marine Corps pay me to train my brain, and so it's been pretty incredible.
And then, in all of your spare time, you've apparently been able to write a book, and you're getting ready to release it this summer. And so it's called Always Faithful. Can you just tell us, what the premise of the book is, what it's about, and how hard that's been to write and be a dad and a husband and an instructor at the Naval Academy and a student at the War College?
Yes, sir. So in 2010, as you mentioned, I was a platoon commander in Afghanistan, and we were involved in the Battle of Singin. 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines had 25 killed in action, 250 wounded. I had 19 casualties in my platoon of 35. It was a pretty dangerous place. And through all that, I had an interpreter who really became one of my Marines, became one of us. And as you know, a solid interpreter is worth his weight in gold, and he did so much more than just translate. He at one point ran through an IED field, tackled a Taliban commander who was coordinating an ambush. When I had multiple casualties, he picked up a rifle and held security. He was undoubtedly saved my life and helped us in a number of ways be successful on that deployment. And so he had 4 years of U.S. service, and the United States came out with a program called the Special Immigration Visa to support Afghan interpreters, which the deal was, it was in the contract, black and white, very clear, that if they had 1 year of service to the U.S., they would receive a visa. And Zach had 4 years of service. And so starting in 2016, he and I started his application process to get him to America. And it was, the bureaucracy and the paperwork, it was just, we received rejection after rejection after rejection. And so after about 3 years of applying, reapplying, trying to provide the paperwork that they requested, we kind of gave up. And but when President Biden made the announcement in April of 21 that we would be out by the end of the summer, I sent Zach a message and I said, hey, what are the implications for you and your family if we're gone by the end of the summer? And he said, well, sir, I just received another threat. I just got a letter to my father's house that they're still looking for me, and that they said if they find me, they're going to kill me and my family. So it means we'll be dead. And I said, okay, well, I better get to work. And I kind of had a guerrilla social media campaign where I used a social media platform that I have with about 50,000 followers. And I just put out a call to help and a call for support. I said, hey, I've got this guy. Here's the situation. If you think you can help, let me know. And before we knew it, I was meeting with congressmen and senators, and Senator Durbin was talking to Secretary Blinken during his confirmation hearing and said, there's a Major Schueman. He's one of my constituents. He's on the cover of Chicago Sun-Times today, talking about his interpreter. Are you going to help him? And Secretary Blinken says, I know who Major Schueman is. I've read the article. I'm going to help him. And I'm thinking, okay, well, we're good. This is the Secretary of State. And what was so wild about all this is that, we had the highest levels of congressional support. We had 4-star generals, admirals, all advocating, trying to move this thing. And no matter, we're on the New York Times front cover, and no matter what we did, it did not advance his visa application. And a classmate of mine from the basic school had done an inter-service transfer to the Air Force, and he was flying for PJs for the Air Force. And I knew he was there. And after 2 failed rescue attempts where his children were almost killed, and he's now there for the 3rd time at the gate in Kabul. And my buddy was in the talk and said, hey, I'm in the talk. I can't go outside the wire. And I said, man, this guy's life depends on it. And Jared, I need you to do me a favor. And so he grabbed some PJs, jumped the wall, and in a very harrowing rescue, pulled my interpreter, his 4 kids, and his wife into HKA. And I didn't think that I would write this book. I didn't think that, I think there's maybe going to be a movie about it. And none of that was ever kind of, it was just a promise had been made, and I had a duty to honor that promise.
Let's shift focus a little bit and get into the meat of the rally point and talk about PB Abbate, the organization that you founded. So if you could, and if you are willing to share the story of Matt Abbate, that'll set this up real well.
Sir, Matt Abbate, he was a sniper, was kind of one of those guys that is larger than life in a lot of ways. I fought with some really brave and courageous, incredible warriors, and then there was all of us, and then Matt Abbate was just operating on a different plane. And I was a pretty aggressive platoon commander, maybe sometimes too aggressive, and so sometimes I'd say, hey, like, let's go check out that village, and everybody like, let's not go check out that village. And then like, all right, well, anybody want to come with? Silence. And then Abbate would say, I'll go with you, sir. And as soon as Abbate would say, I'll go with you, all the rest of the hands were like, okay, well, like it's that's the kind of confidence that the Marines had in him, that he could change the whole battlefield, like he as one man. And everybody wanted to be around him. Everybody was drawn to him, but he still would talk to anybody, treated everybody, with dignity and respect, and just a really great person, but just fierce warrior. And ended up, he was killed in action on December 2nd. I wanted to start this organization, and I wanted to part of our mission is to honor the legacy of the fallen, and to live some of these principles that Sergeant Matt Abbate lived by, and I could think of no one else I would want to name this after, and to be the namesake, and to continue to remember, and to tell his story. And it's been special to be able to uphold it and keep his legacy alive.
So if you would just talk a little bit about PB Abbate, the mission of the organization, the vision, and where you see this going.
It was April of 2020, and I had just put my daughter to bed, and I received a text from one of my Marines that, hey, sir, need you to call me. This is from one of my Marines from 2010. Now this was 2020. And he said, McLeod is no longer with us. And then within 30 days of that, two more of my Marines from when I was a company commander killed themselves. And so, I started to read all the VA suicide reports. And I found that the leading proximal cause of veteran suicide were feelings of disconnectedness and isolation. And then I found that almost twice as many veterans who are non-combat commit suicide as compared to combat veterans, and that there's no correlation between combat and veteran suicide. And I said, okay, so we know it's a veteran problem, and we know that it's the veterans who are feeling disconnected and isolated. Let me go look at the landscape of the veteran service organizations and find out what's out there that's getting all veterans in community and getting all veterans connected. And what I found was about 99% of the veteran resources out there are allocated to about 1% of the veteran population. That's our special forces and our combat wounded. Okay, but there's about 17 million veterans, and it seems like we've really kind of started and stopped, and that's not what the data is telling us, though, And so I said, what if we can get a little bit more preemptive and proactive, and take all those barriers down, and open this up to active duty, open it up to National Guard, reservists, veterans, anybody from PFC to general, active duty, reservists, National Guard. If you've raised your right hand, you're in. And so I went out, and I was able to secure a 350-acre ranch out in Montana, because I believe that something happens that's special outdoors, out west, out in the mountains. And I said, this is your patrol base. And what was one of the biggest things I've had to kind of fight throughout this whole journey is that people would say, well, I was just I would say, like, you've been conditioned and programmed to think that if you didn't kill Osama bin Laden, that your service doesn't matter. Let me tell you that your service does matter, and you're welcome at this patrol base. That actually, we built this patrol base for you. If you're into yoga, if you're into art, if you're into music, if you're into fishing, if you're into hunting, whatever you're into, if one of you want to walk point, we'll build the club around you. We'll provide you the resources, we'll provide you the infrastructure, and we'll take care of it. So if you want to go do that thing out in Montana, we'll make it happen. And if we can't do it in Montana, we'll make it happen still. So our surf club goes out to Camp Pendleton and does go surfing on the beach. Our dive club is going out to the Bahamas this summer. I think there's two layers to that. Is one, relationships are built on communication and trust. And so there's a certain level of trust and ability to communicate because we're both veterans, because we both served. And so even if we're in different services, I can still talk to you to a certain extent because we both have that as our background. And now we also share common interests. So we like jujitsu, we like weightlifting, we like books, we like yoga, right? And so now we kind of speak two languages, which is going to facilitate the building of that community and the building of that connection. And so, but the idea of a patrol base is it's temporary. You got to go back out and you got to get back on patrol. And so what we're going to do is we're going to challenge you to go start a local chapter so that at any time people can rally all over the country at our local chapters. And so we've got 35 local chapters right now. And the idea of those local chapters is there's a social component and a service component, and they're enduring and sustainable so that you can always have that kind of community right there where you're at. And so every month you have PD Abbate Chicago and Boston and New York and Phoenix and you name it, right? They're every month they're going out on a hike, they're gathering for pizza, they're going to see a baseball game, and then every quarter they're doing some type of service project because I'm a narrative guy and this is storytelling, and I believe that the story around veterans was that we're broken, damaged, disordered, unstable. And I just said, that's not the veterans that I know. We're actually men and women of character. We're men and women of service. So let's find a community partner who's trusted in the community and let's show up and let's challenge that narrative and say, no, we're not damaged, broken, or looking for a handout. We're actually out here and we're men and women of service and we're going to continue to find ways to serve.
Yeah, that's amazing work. So if somebody wants to learn more about some of the programs or how to get involved or, find a local chapter in whatever city they live in or how to come out to Montana, how do they find out that information?
Yeah, best thing to do is go to pbabbate.org. Abbate is Abbate. We got a pretty active Instagram. My challenge to everybody who wants to get involved and support is I say, hey, we're building the most inclusive, accessible veteran service organization in the country, and eventually we're going to have 17 million members because every veteran is going to want to be part of PB Abbate. So it's an all hands effort to build the patrol base, and so we actually have a Navy ensign PAO who runs our Instagram. She does a great job with that. She said, I want to be part of this, and I have a talent and I want to fill a sandbag. And so she runs our Instagram. And so that page is pretty active. And we've got a couple of videos up on YouTube. If you search PB Abbate, you kind of see some of our programming in action out in Montana. Any one of those will kind of get you connected.
Give you one last closing comment or thought.
Yes, sir. I just thanks for this venue, this opportunity to share the work that you guys are doing at the museum is really just incredible. And I think just making a really huge impact. And I just encourage if you're active duty PFC listening or retired general listening, you're in the Guard or you're in the reserves and you're looking for a community, if you're looking to get connected, I'd encourage you to check out PB Abbate and return to base. Thanks for the time today, sir. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet, Tom. And thanks for what you've done. Sebastian Younger's book, Tribe, it talks about much of what you're doing and how, the ancient warrior cultures, when the warriors came back to their tribe or their communities, they were welcomed back, and there was a storytelling component to it. And, they were able to really address some of the PTSD issues that we see today because of the lack of connection, the lack of storytelling, the lack of, finding your tribe when you get back to wherever it is you go to. So work that you are doing is so critically important to provide that connection and to provide, you think about it, you've got the camaraderie of service and in no other profession is anybody expected to, run to the sounds of the gun, except maybe a fireman or a police officer. And so you've got 200,000 men and women leaving the services each year with that ingrained into who they are. It's not what they do, but it's who they are, and whether it was for 3 years or for 35 years. And so, as you talked about, you lose your identity. You take your uniform off, you don't have your rank anymore. You might be, Sergeant Jones or General so-and-so, but you are no longer that person. And you've got to really look hard inside and redefine yourself and who you're going to be and what you're going to do. And for many of us, it's kind of a struggle to come to grips with that. So awesome work. So thanks for joining us this month. Best of luck on the book release. I look forward to reading it. I'll have it on my nightstand pile of books once it gets released. So thanks for sharing the story of Matt. Thanks for sharing the story of Zach. Look forward to learning more about it. And more importantly, thanks for what you're doing to support veterans, irrespective of branch of service and irrespective of military occupational specialty.
Throughout our 120 years, Ford has supported our nation's armed forces and honored their selfless service to our country. The Central Ohio Ford dealers are proud to continue this tradition by investing in the work of the National Veterans Memorial and Museum in Columbus. Together, we want to share the veterans' heroic stories and introduce a grateful nation to the faces behind our forces. Please join us monthly to hear inspiring educational stories from our veterans who have gone above and beyond their call to defend freedom around the world. The National Veterans Memorial and Museum and your Central Ohio Ford dealers. Together, we will never forget.